Hey guys, Mitch from Physiotherapy doing Mondays with Mitch for our Facebook Live. Just going to do a video on squatting and how you should squat, what does a perfect squat look like, what is good and bad technique, and how to cater your squat for your needs. The first thing I'm going to get into, hey Elise, thanks for joining. The first thing I'm going to really get into is the perfect squat. Hey Ivana, the perfect squat. Okay, so if you are currently training either at CrossFit or F45 or with a PT trainer or just doing your own thing and you're doing squats in your program and you've sort of looked up how should I squat, where should my feet be, and all these sort of things, you might be coming across like, how do I know if I'm doing it right? How do I know if my form's good and all that sort of thing? So just going to sort of touch base on that sort of thing. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is there is no such thing as a perfect squat. There is no ideal squatting technique. There is no best foot position. There is no best knee position. There's no anything, all right? The main thing you want to get across is the ideal squatting position for you, all right? So everyone is built slightly differently. Everyone's hips are built differently, everyone's femurs are built differently, everyone's legs are different lengths. So it's really, really important that you get in tune with your own body and find someone who knows how this will affect your technique and how it will look in your joint loading to get the most out of your squatting. So that's really, really important. So I see a lot of people who come from either personal trainers or gyms or anything like that, and their trainers told them that they have to squat with their feet directly under their hips with their toes pointed forward, and hips should not go below the knees, and the knees shouldn't track further than the toes, and all these sort of things. And I'm sorry, but I just shake my head at that stuff. That's total rubbish, and it's no fault to your trainers because they've heard that from somewhere, and it's just been a big game of Chinese whispers. You need to be able to squat for your anatomy. So the person next to you isn't going to be able to squat the same way that you do because their hips and legs are going to be built completely different to you. So don't just try and force squatting with your toes forward or out or in or anything like that. The main technique cues that you really want to follow is, are my feet firmly on the ground? Check. Is my big toe, my little toe, my heel in good contact with the ground at all times? Check. That is probably the first thing you really want to get right, because your feet are your grounding. They're the thing that keep you connected with the floor. Secondly, is my knees tracking in line with my toes? Yes. Okay, that's what you want. You don't want your knee just jumping in and out and flailing around like you're a skier trying to stay on their feet down the mountain. You want to make sure that your knee is tracking in a nice straight line over their feet. And some people's knees and hips are going to be slightly twisted and just spun a little bit differently. So some people, no matter how much they try, their knees are going to track slightly in. And that is how their anatomy is built. And you need to make sure that you know how to squat for your anatomy. So I really can't get that point across any further. The other thing is your leg length. So I've got a really cool little picture here that I'm just going to flip around on laptop. So this is a really good picture on how your leg length difference between your tibia, so the spot between your ankle and your shin, and your shin to your hip, which is your femur, how that is going to change what your squat's going to look like. So if you saw someone in the gym squatting like this and their spine was in a really good position, a lot of people would be like, yep, that is definitely a good squatter. Short femurs, long torso. It's just a really nice sort of traditional looking squat. Their torso is very upright, and they've got quite a lot of hip flexion there. Now, you may get someone looking like this and you look at them and they're like, oh my God, that person's folding over and they don't know how to squat and they need to work on their technique. Not really. Their hips and their feet are in a good position, their knees drawn out, their back's in a neutral position. The only difference is this person's got long femurs. So they're going to have a slightly different looking squat. So some people might term that as a bad squatter, whereas it's not the case. You really just need to make sure that you understand that this person just got longer femurs in relation to their torso or in relation to their lower leg, and their squat's going to look different. And you just have to accept that and go, yep, cool, that's what this person's going to work. And you need to really, really try and get the best out of that particular squat for them. Other than the feet being grounded and the knees tracking in, the other main thing that you really, really want to focus on is the spinal position, okay? And it's what we call a pelvic tilt, or in more layman's terms, a butt wink. And that's a very, very layman term from what I use at the gym with my clients. And that's what you don't generally want in a squat. And I've got a sort of a picture here as well on what that looks like. So that is a nice neutral spine. All right. So his hips are nice and level. He's got a fairly flat back. I don't know what this person's spine looks like standing up, so it might not be the perfect position for him, but that looks pretty good. His feet are grounded, hips are in a good position, back's in a really good position. What we call a butt wink is this sort of thing. So when the pelvis actually tucks under, right, to get in a deeper squat, the lower back rounds, and then you get this curve through the upper back. Now, being able to just sit in this particular position for an extended period of time, I don't think it's going to be overly damaging for your back, but if you were to put 50, 100, 150 kilos on that person's back, their spine is not going to like that, and something is not going to like that for very long, and it's going to start getting aggravated over time. So really, really important that you focus on getting good spinal mechanics as well. So you go down to the point where you start to lose that spinal mechanics, and if that's 90 degrees, if it's above parallel, below parallel, cool, you stick with that, and you try and focus on the restriction that's stopping you from that. And you'll generally have a decent idea when you go down. You'll feel something feeling quite tight. It could be your glutes, it could be your hips. If you're getting that sort of pinching at the front of your hips, it's a really good idea to do what we call banded mobilizations, where you can wrap a band around an upright and pull your hips downwards. And there's a couple of really cool drills that I'll sort of show you at the end where you can do that. But yeah, so that's the real major thing. Now, squatting, and the reason I harp on about squatting and strength so much is that I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and they were talking to a guy named Dr. Andy Galpin, who was a human energetist, PhD. So he does a lot of, hey David, how you going? A lot of research on muscles and how muscles function within the body system and all that sort of stuff. And he quoted a paper, I can't remember the name of it, but he was saying that they looked at all the variables that they tested with people on what were the biggest predictors of people being admitted to nursing homes, right? So this is the end game, how functional you are towards the end of your life when you've retired, you got your super sitting there, and it's your turn to go off and play golf and not have to go to work and enjoy your lifetime. And the biggest determinants, there were three main factors. The first one was cardiovascular fitness, which we all kind of know. Having a healthy heart being strong, being able to get up and walk around and staying active, really, really important for your independence and not going into a nursing home. But the second two variables, number one, was leg strength. So how strong these people were on doing either a knee extension or a single leg press, right? So how strong their legs were. And then the second one was how much muscle they had in their legs. So out of the three variables that had the strongest prediction in going into a nursing home and not being able to take care of yourself, two of those were leg strength dependent. So, and when you think of it, it makes a lot of sense. It's the muscles that keep you on your feet and being able to get up and out of a chair longer, and being able to get up and out of a chair when you get older. If you've still got that, you're less likely to need to go into cared housing, nursing, an aged care facility, or anything like that, which, again, none of us are really going to want. So it's really, really important, whether or not you're an arm wrestler, a synchronized swimmer, a CrossFitter, F45er, a runner, or whoever, you need to be doing something for your long-term health. And squatting is the number one thing to be doing. So make sure you check, you don't just stick to trying to do the one squat pattern. That's probably one of my biggest takeaway home messages from here. The second thing is going to someone who can really understand anatomy and try and figure out your ideal squatting pattern can make a big, big difference. So exercise physiologists are pretty good with this. any sort of trainer who knows a lot. So CrossFit and F45 trainers tend to be quite good. They go through quite a lot of study. I know CrossFit coaches do a lot of study on the squat. So if you already do CrossFit or are thinking about it, hit up your local CrossFit coach and try and figure something out. Or, best yet, go to a physio, especially someone at iMove, because I know they're awesome. Get your squat looked at. Just come in and go, look, I'm thinking of doing squatting in my program, or I've been doing a lot of squats to try and get stronger and get it looked at. So yeah, that's my little plug for iMove. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the different squatting variations we can do. So bear with me, I'm going to have to try and work with trying to get my little stands set up here. Now, squatting variations. So this is probably more for my guys that are already at the gym doing squats, training, and not sure how to do them, what they should look like, or anything like that. Now, back squats, barbell back squats. There's a whole bunch of different ways of doing them, and I think that you should really try and play around with all of them and try and do it under the careful eye of someone who knows what they're doing. But what you can try and do, got the camera there, a really important thing to try and do is to learn how to back squat in a whole bunch of different varieties. So trying to squat with, I'm just going to get this camera set up. Cool. All right. And we'll set this camera, reverse that. Okay. So we've got a barbell rack just here, and we're going to go through a little bit of a sort of crash course in the different types of squat. So we've got the high bar barbell back squat. So you have a barbell set up. You set it up into your upper back, so sitting on your upper traps just beneath your neck. Hands in relatively close, good grip on the bar. Now for me, I like to squat with a slightly wider stance because my hips feel more comfortable in that position. Your hips back, squeezing the hamstrings on the way down, squatting down, and then standing up. Okay? Down, and stand up. Okay? Now this particular exercise, the whole idea of it is to strengthen up your posterior chain. So the muscles, and when we say posterior chain, strengthen up the muscles that run from your shoulder blades down your back to your glutes, hamstrings, and calves. So everything that runs down the posterior of your back. Okay? So if you're not getting hamstring or glutes engagement during a back squat, you're not really getting everything out of it that you should. Now, I find with either Olympic weightlifters or sometimes CrossFitters can get caught into this, is using your weightlifting shoes too much. Now, what weightlifting shoes do is they allow you to go deeper in a squat, and that's awesome, but it shifts your weight forward. It's putting more demand on the knees, and more importantly, the muscles that straighten your knees. So your quads, you become quite quad focused in your squatting pattern. You become very, very quad dominant. Okay, so my biggest plug for people who want to strengthen up their back squat or want their back squat to translate to sport or longevity is do it with a really flat shoe or even barefoot. That way, if your foot mechanics aren't right, it's easy for you to notice and for your trainer to notice. Secondly, you're putting a little bit less load on the muscles over your knee, like you're taking the load off the quad, and it's easier to get your hamstrings and glutes engaged. Or if you still can't get that going, try either a box squat or a low bar back squat. So I'll go through those two. Now, box squat would be down to a bench, just utilizing any old bench. The higher the better if you haven't done it before. Same sort of position, barbell set up onto your back, feet in your normal stance. What you're going to do is you're going to load, try and squeeze those hamstrings on the way down, keep the bar in line with your body, and then you're going to sit, stay nice and tight, and then rock forward and stand up. So load, trying to really, really focus on getting that hamstring and glute engagement, staying up and squeeze. Alright? So that is a really good drill for learning how to use your posterior chain in a squat. And if that doesn't work, you can also try a low bar back squat where the bar sits a little bit lower. Now, I would recommend doing that one without a little bit of guidance because the setup's a little bit hard. So if you're going to try that, try and work with a trainer or someone who knows squatting quite well, physio, whoever. Try and find someone who works with it. Now, that's the back squat. The second one is the front squat. Now this particular exercise, it is focused on the anterior chain, the anterior core as well, but mainly the quads. This is a way of squatting quad dominant. So if you're someone who's using lifting shoes, go for gold with these things. You'll be able to get in a deeper position. You'll be able to sit in a nice deep squat with a nice neutral spine, which is really, really cool. But try and make sure that your knees are still in a good position over your feet. So 2 ways of doing it. And you've got to forgive my arms are a bit tight from a workout I did the other day. So front rack positions, this is probably more for my CrossFitters or my Olympic weightlifters. Elbows up nice and high, hips back, and then stand and squeeze. Okay, so I can really feel my quads doing a little bit more in this squat. Trying to focus on keeping the 3 points of contact with my feet. So my big toe, my little toe, and my heel. And the other way of doing it, if you don't have that mobility, right, so the guys who have done a lot of bench or biceps and your shoulders and chest are quite tight and you can't get those elbows up, you do the crossover. So under the bar, hand over, hand on top just to make sure it stays in, and then same thing, down and hold, okay? Down and stand. So, very quick tutorial on squatting, and I'm just going to turn this guy around. Cool. So really quick tutorial on the couple of different types of squatting. If you're starting off, my biggest tips, if you're back squatting, try and learn how to do it barefoot or in a really flat shoe. No lifters, no knee sleeves, no lifting belts, okay? Learn how to use your core engagement. Learn how to get that nice and squeezing to get taking a really deep breath, get that all sort of stable. Learn how to use that before you even think about using a weightlifting belt. Knee sleeves, don't need to rely on them, don't need them. Learn how to squat without them. For your super maximal loads like high percentage or 90, 95% of your 1RM, sure, use everything you need to sort of lift that weight. But for your general training sessions, if you're needing to rely on any of those accessories, you're not doing them right and you're missing out and you're just relying on accessories rather than your own muscles. So really focus on that sort of stuff for your back squats. Front squats, lifting shoes, good. It's only going to increase the amount of focus on your quads, which you're doing anyway. And it'll allow you to get into a deeper squat. So if you're someone who's looking at Olympic weightlifting, it's quite important to be able to do that. So go for gold. And please don't just squat a certain way because a trainer told you need to squat with your toes facing forward. Okay? You need to learn how your anatomy works. So are my femurs really long? Does my femur sit in my hip a certain way that doesn't allow for me to have a deep squat or allows me to have a narrow squat or a wide squat or anything like that? How much rotation is my hip squat? These are all things that really need to be considered with your squat. So please go and find someone who knows what they're talking about with this sort of stuff and can watch how you move and assess how you move and give you the best tips to get the most out of it. And if not, if this is all mumbo jumbo and you don't squat, get into the gym and start squatting, even if it's just up and down from a chair. That's the best possible thing you can do. Just sit up, sit down, really good for the legs, really good way to start, and start doing it with dumbbells in your hand, and that's a really good way, a good starting point if you don't know what to do. So, guys, sorry if I've rambled on a bit, but thanks for staying on, all my loyal watchers. I will be back next Monday. If you've got any questions regarding squatting training or anything like that, please post them to the comments and all that sort of thing, and we'll get back to them tonight. And if not, happy squatting and happy training, and we'll see you at iMove. Have a great night.